So what I'd like to do is look at the homework, okay? And we're going to start with problems 9 and 10. And let's start honestly with just problem 9 at the first, for the first thing. Now, what do those arrows mean? We have parallel lines, right? So I've got a pair of parallel lines, and we can see here that they are the top and the bottom of the picture. These are our parallel lines. And actually, we have how many transversals here? I see, well, if those were the two parallel lines, both of the other lines would be transversals. Wouldn't you agree? I agree that they're all transversals, but in respect to just these parallel lines. So I'm only going to really be worried about this one. Why? That's the one that forms the angles, okay? So that's really the one that I'm concerned about. So I'm just going to kind of move this guy a little bit over to the side so we can see the angles. And I see that I have an x and I have an x minus 26. And honestly, I don't really care what the algebra part of it is right now. All I'm caring about right now is what kind of angles they are. So think back to your vocabulary. Are they corresponding angles? Are they consecutive interior, consecutive exterior, alternate interior, or alternate exterior angles? Which one? Consecutive or same side interiors, okay? And when the lines are parallel, we learned this last class, when the lines are parallel, what's true about those two angles? They're supplementary. So here is the equation that I'm looking for, I was looking for when I checked for homework for each of them. X plus, because this plus the other angle, so now I'm going to write the other angle down, x minus 26 is equal to 180, perfect. And that is the equation that I'm looking for. One angle plus another angle is equal to 180. That is the definition. That means they're supplementary. So Jesse, I know you don't have this with you today, but if you get a blank piece of paper and write it down, that'd be a good start. I fully expect everyone to have this equation down, okay? That's what I'm looking for. And then now it's a matter of remembering algebra from last year and can we solve it, okay? So we have our two things. It's just a matter of solving the equation. Remember, we have an equal sign. We're going to look at combining like terms on the same side of that equal sign. And is there anything on the left that can be combined together? The x's. So we're literally going to combine our two x's together to get x plus x is what kind of x? 2x, okay? So I have 2x minus 26 is equal to 180. Oh, 100, what do I do from this point to solve for x? Perfect. I'm going to add 26 to both sides. That's exactly right. And I have 180 plus 26. So I have 2x is equal to 206. Yeah. And then I'm going to divide by 2. And when I take 206 and divide by 2, I get, x is equal to 103. So that's what x is. And then it did ask us to go back in and find the measure of the angles. Well, one of those angles is 103 degrees, and then the other one would just be 26 less than that. And so what would that be? 77. So this angle was 77 degrees. Okay? So if you look at problem 10, this one's a little skinnier and a little bit harder to see maybe. But what I'd like us to do is I'd like us to figure out where the parallel lines are. I might try to make it a little bit bigger so we can kind of see. But what are the parallel lines in this case? They're not the top and the bottom anymore. Where are they? On the sides, yeah, the left and the right there. And so I'm really this one's a little bit harder to see, so I'm going to highlight it with the skinnier lines here. But this is one parallel line. This is another parallel line, except for it didn't really, let me move it a little bit. Oh, well, whatever. And then I have the transversal is going to be this guy right here. Would you agree with that? I'm just kind of darkening it and highlighting it so I can really kind of visually see what's really happening. To me, this one's the hardest picture to see because it's so skinny, right? But I have two pairs of parallel lines and a transversal. So I'm really looking for what is the measure of this, what is the relationship between this angle and this angle here. Maybe if I draw it this way, it's this angle and this angle here. Can you see a little bit better if I draw it like that? Sometimes it's harder to see when it's so skinny like that. So just draw it separately and make it bigger so you can kind of visualize what's happening. What kind of angles are those? Well, they're definitely not alternate because they're not on alternate sides of the transversal, right? They're on the same side, and they're the same as the other one, aren't they also consecutive or same side interior angles? So what's the equation for both of those? 7x plus. Yeah, I want you to go ahead and write this down. I'm going to pause the recording. I want to see your equation, and then we have to talk algebraically how to solve it. Okay? So I agree with most of your equations. We have 7x plus x over 2 is equal to 180. Now some of you wrote it the other way. X over 2 plus 7x equals 180, and that's totally fine. As I came around, a lot of you had already solved this. Ali, what did you do to solve this for x? Exactly. I wanted to get rid of that fraction. And the idea is to get rid of that divide by 2 here. So what Ali did was he took both sides and multiplied everything by a 2. And you have to multiply everything by 2. So that simply means, I'm just going to go ahead and make sure I separate these two, that on the left-hand side we're going to have 14x plus what? Plus another x, because the 2's will reduce, and then 2 times 180 is 360. So this is the equation I'm left with. Now what? I should say, what do I do now? To get what? Perfect. So I have 15x is equal to 360, and I'm going to divide by 15. How many times does 15 go into 360? 24 times. So that's what x is. All right, and then I just have to plug it in to find the measure of the angles. 24 divided by 2, what's the measure of this little teeny tiny angle here? 12 degrees. Does that kind of make sense according to the picture? Do we expect it to be a real small angle? Yeah. And then we have 7 times 24, or we can just subtract it from 180, can't we? Can't we just say it's 168 right now? Because we know that these two have to add up to 180. So this is going to be 168. Or you can multiply 24 by 7. Either way works. Okay. All right, so I'd like us to go ahead and look at the next two problems. So here's 11. And I want us to look at highlighting what the parallel lines are. Let's make sure we have the correct equation. What kind of angles are they? Are they on, like the last two have both been consecutive interiors? I don't believe number 11 are. So I want you to identify what kind of angles they are first, and then we'll write the equation. And number 12 has a lot going on in it, okay? So I think I have the answers, part of the answers here. We'll just kind of erase those for now. But let's look at both. Let's look at 11 first, and then we'll get to 12, because 12's got a lot. What kind of angles are these here? Let's go by their name first. They are corresponding. Perfect. So what you would get if you're not sure and you're having a hard time seeing this, you want to highlight your parallel lines. And then we want to think about what our transversal is going to be. And here is our transversal. It's the one line that touches both of the angles. So I am looking at this angle here and this angle here. Okay, and those would be corresponding. They're in the same position. So the corresponding angles, what I'm looking for is the relationship. When the lines are parallel, which they are here, are they equal to each other? Or do they add to be 180? It's one of those two choices. Which one would it be here? They're equal to each other when the lines are parallel. So that should be the equation. 3x minus 5 is equal to x plus 55. Okay. So go ahead and solve that for me and tell me what both of the angles are going to be. So just remembering our algebra skills, moving the x over would give me a 2x here. Moving the 5 over would give me a 60 here. Dividing by 2, we do get x is 30. And then we have to plug it back in. And honestly, we only have to plug it into one of them, don't we? Because we already know that they're the same. So 30 plus 55, both of these angles should be 85 degrees. Okay? And most of you, looks like you got that. Now this picture. It's a little big, isn't it? Okay? It's got a lot of stuff going on. Of course, I will cover up the answers with my recording button. There we go. So I have a lot of stuff going on, and I'm hoping that I can put a relationship with the two x's and a relationship with the two y's. Because I don't want to write an equation with both x's and y's if I can avoid it. You guys last year did do that, the system of equations. Does that sound familiar to some of you? Okay. So you can do it if you have x's and y's. You can go ahead and write a system, which means you'll need two equations and go from there and use either substitution or I called it linear combination. I'm not sure what they call it now. Just what they add them two together. Anyway, let's see if we can avoid that, because that's a backup plan if we have to do it. But let's look at the two x angles. Is there a relationship between them? Yes or no? Yeah. What is it? They're a linear pair, which means that if I'm going to write an equation to solve for x, what is the equation going to look like? They add together to be 180. So let's go ahead and write that equation. So x plus 20 plus x plus 10 is equal to 180. Okay? So we're just worried about the x's right now. Okay? Just the x's. And so at this point, what we're looking for is what x is, and I need to solve it. So Dina, tell me what I do. Yeah, because they're on the same side, right? I don't have to move anything at this point. I'm just combining like terms. So what am I going to have? 2x plus what? Perfect. Now I've combined everything on the same side of the equal sign, so now I'm going to start moving some things. Stephanie, what do I do at this point? Perfect. And I get 2x is equal to 150. And then I'm going to divide by 2. What's half of 150? 75. Okay? So that's my x. I can plug it back in to find the measure of the two angles, and maybe we should do that. Isn't this one going to be 85 degrees? And this one would be 95 degrees? Okay. And that should help us here. How do I find y? Be very careful, because only these two lines are parallel. The other ones are not. So this is going to take us a couple of steps to be able to write an equation. We cannot write an equation right now with what we know. We have to add to our picture. So I think this one's a pretty complicated one to solve for y. So give me some suggestions. Hints would be, let's look over here on the left-hand side. Let's not worry about y's yet. Okay? Or maybe we should. Do these have a relationship at all? They're not like alternate interiors, alternate exteriors, anything like that, are they? But they do have a relationship, even though, let me just show you real quick. Remember how last time, I forget who it was in here, but they had a great thing where they said that all these angles are the same, and they said all these angles are the same. Remember that? Who is that? I forget. I should say. Very good. And you say you kind of zigzagged through, which was I think that was a great visual, quite frankly. So we're really talking about, let's go back to our picture. We're talking about these two angles, which if we're looking at our picture is this one and this one. Would you agree? And I'm going to use different numbers so they're not the same measure. One's blue and one's yellow. Would you agree with that? So what does that mean? They're supplementary. Okay? So even though they don't have a special name like we're comfortable with, aren't they actually supplementary anyway? Okay, they're not like corresponding or alternate interiors or anything like that. But they are, if we have two parallel lines cut by a transversal, we still know that they are supplementary angles. So that's what we're going to do to solve for y. And how do I do that? What's the equation going to look like? Somebody who hasn't answered the question yet. Jason, what do you think? What's the equation going to be to solve for y? We already over here looked and said that one's a blue dot and one's a yellow dot. So they're not the same. So they're going to be added to be what? Exactly. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go ahead and say that y plus y minus 40 is equal to 180. And then I would just go ahead and solve for y at this point. Combining my y's. So I'm adding 40 and dividing by 2. We get y is equal to 110. And so this measure is 110 degrees. which means this one would be 70 degrees. Good. So help go on. Is the hard part of this when you were looking at it for homework was that it was in a picture? We had some in a triangle, we had some in a parallelogram, some in a trapezoid. By the way, this one really is a trapezoid. This guy over here, that's a trapezoid. Weird, funky looking trapezoid, but it is. Was that the hard part because it was in a picture and it wasn't just like two lines cut by a transversal? It looked different to you? You guys tell me. Hello? It's Tuesday. Why y'all being so weird? Be quiet. All right, anyway. What I'd like us to do at this point is I have a little activity for us, okay? And we're going to be gluing and making some pictures. So let me pause this for. So you should have a total of 4 sheets here, okay? The one is MapQuest 1, and you're cutting out and gluing all of the cities or the places in your city, the McDonald's, the Walmart, the bank, the park, whatever, on the back. And then you're going to, that's one sheet. Sheet number 2 should be the vocabulary words with your 12 sentences that you're going to write, which is based on the map you created. So your sentences most likely will be different than every other sentences in the room. It depends on how you made your map. And then number 3, you just got from Kira, you got MapQuest 2. You're going to create a second parallel city on the back of MapQuest 2, but this time you're going to be drawing it yourself according to the directions that are here. There's only one way to create parallel city number 2. So there's one answer to that one. And then the 4th sheet is Color Me Parallel, where you will actually physically draw. There's a space for you to use colors, and that's why I gave everybody the colored pencils. You're going to have to make some things in yellow, some things in pink. And pink's going to be hard because I don't think pink is in my colored pencil set. Just make it like a light red, like just kind of color lightly or something. Or maybe if you have your own pink pen or something, you can use it. Okay? So once you've turned in all your parallel city stuff, you can go ahead and start on your homework if you'd like. It is out of the textbook on page 153 and 154. I'm going to have you guys do 7 through 9, and then 12 through 20, and then also 22.